They met on a rainy afternoon in late spring. Daniel was running late for a client meeting. He had ducked into a small, independently owned bookstore to wait out the downpour. The place smelled of old paper and roasted coffee beans, the kind of cozy chaos that felt untouched by time. He wasn't looking for anything. But then he saw her. Anita was in the poetry section, hair pulled up in a loose bun, rain dripped from the hem of her jacket. She reached for a dog-eared volume of Pablo Neruda's love sonnets. Their hands touched.
Your hands like thunder on my skin. You pull me close just to pull me in. Breathless trapped beneath your eyes. I lose myself where danger lies. You say love, but it feels like fire, burning slow with cruel desire.
A spark. Not the kind in movies, but the subtle one, the kind that sinks quietly beneath the skin and leaves a warmth that lingers. She smiled, he apologized, and then she said, "You can have it. If you're willing to share a coffee and explain why you picked this one." That moment, small and unassuming, was the beginning of everything. In the months that followed, Daniel and Anita became inseparable.
We wandered around walking the streets together. Your smell is like the sunlight. It swept away all worries and troubles. We went to Korea and saw the roses bloom. The fairy tale and dreams comes true. Holding hands, we swim in the blue sea together.
They spent hours wandering the city, bookstores, photo exhibits, late-night diners where they shared waffles and whispered secrets. She read him poetry. He took portraits of her when she wasn't looking. They talked about dreams, about building a life filled with purpose, with passion, with presence. 1 year after that rainy bookstore meeting, they stood in front of a small gathering of friends and family and said, "I do." It was a crisp October morning, golden leaves fluttered around them like confetti. He cried during his vows. She held his trembling hands. It felt like the beginning of forever. And in many ways, it was. But not in the way they imagined. The first year of marriage was blissful. They moved into a tiny apartment with creaky floors and a leaky faucet. They made love on the couch, danced in the kitchen, burnt pancakes on Sunday mornings. But real life doesn't sustain itself on romance alone. Soon, cracks began to appear, not gaping holes, not yet, just hairline fractures. Daniel's photography career began to take off. Weddings, fashion shoots, travel gigs. He was gone more and more, physically and emotionally. Anita, meanwhile, had just been promoted to lead teacher at her school. She was working late, managing curriculum, helping struggling students, craving stability and a family. They loved each other, but they stopped speaking the same language. She longed for rootedness, a home, a child, a rhythm. He longed for movement, adventure, autonomy, the unpredictable pulse of art at first. They danced around the differences. They avoided the hard conversations. They told themselves it was just a phase, but months turned to years. The space between them widened. Date nights were replaced with quiet dinners in front of the TV. Kisses became forehead pecks. Arguments became silence. They weren't fighting for each other anymore. They were coexisting, like old friends with fading memories of love. And then came the conversation. It was a Tuesday night. Rain fell again. Eerily echoing the day they met, Anita sat on the edge of the couch, her voice trembling. "I don't think this is working anymore." Daniel didn't argue, he just nodded. Maybe that was the saddest part of all. The divorce was quiet, no lawyers, no shouting, just quiet heartbreak. They signed the papers in the same cafe where they had once talked for hours. She kept the bookshelf, he took the dog, and then they walked away. No dramatic goodbyes, no turning back, just two people who had once been everything. Now reduced to silence, time moved on, as it always does. Daniel relocated to New York, a loft apartment. Concrete walls, endless motion. He photographed celebrities, shot ad campaigns. He dated women who were beautiful, spontaneous, exciting. but none of them were Anita. He told himself he was fine, but sometimes, he'd wake up in the middle of the night and instinctively reach for her. The space beside him was always cold. Anita stayed in Atlanta. She poured herself into her students, especially the troubled ones, the ones others gave up on. She started journaling again, tried dating once or twice, but her heart felt unavailable. She would see couples in grocery stores laughing about cereal choices, and her chest would tighten, not with bitterness, but with longing. Years passed, 5, to be exact. They spoke only on birthdays and holidays, brief messages, always polite, always hollow, and then came the funeral. It was a college friend. A sudden car accident, gone at 34, the service was in the same city where Anita still lived. Daniel flew in without hesitation. He arrived late, tired. Grief heavy, he sat in the back. When Anita walked in, he saw her instantly, and the world tilted. She looked the same, and completely different, stronger, softer, sadder. Their eyes met, no words, just a small nod. Later, outside the chapel, they spoke, small talk. Nervous laughter. She mentioned a new book she was reading. He mentioned a photo series he was working on, and then, a pause. "I've missed talking to you," he said. "I've missed being heard," she replied. They stood in the cold until the streetlights flickered on. Coffee turned into dinner, dinner turned into long walks turned into phone calls from different cities. They didn't talk about getting back together, not at first. They just talked about what went wrong, about what they didn't say when it mattered, about how young and scared they were. And slowly, a tenderness returned, not the reckless kind, not butterflies, but something deeper, a quiet remembering. 6 months passed. They visited each other often. Started attending therapy, not as a couple, but individually. They unpacked pain, unlearned habits, rebuilt trust. And one evening, in early winter, they met outside the same bookstore where their story began. Snow drifted around them. Daniel held out a small, square box, not a ring, but a key to my home, to my life. "I want to try again. But better. Older. Wiser. Willing." Anita took the key, and this time, she didn't hesitate. They remarried in a garden behind Anita's school, just family, no big speeches, just one quiet vow to choose each other every single day. Today, they live in a house filled with books, photos, music, and grace. They argue, sometimes, they still get it wrong. But now, they know how to say sorry, how to listen, how to fight for each other, not with each other. Daniel still travels, but less. Anita still teaches, but now she writes too, and every year, on their first wedding anniversary, they write each other letters, not about the past, but about everything they've learned by falling in love again, because love, real love, isn't perfect. It's not always pretty. Sometimes, it breaks, but sometimes, it bends, and when both hearts are willing, it can begin again. They divorced, and then, they fell in love all over again.
Your hands like thunder on my skin. You pull me close just to pull me in. Breath